My name is Bucky Roberts and welcome to your very first tutorial in HTML5. Now, in this tutorial series, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking you from a complete noob in HTML5 to a seasoned vet, teaching you guys all the little tricks, all the tips, giving you guys all the information you need to create awesome websites. So if you guys are like, okay, I don't even know what the heck HTML5 is, well, I kind of just gave it away. It's basically a way where you can create awesome sweet, epic websites. So if you're saying, okay, I thought I learned about web development before, but maybe not. Well, I want to tell you guys this. If you are completely new to web development and you never made a website before, then I would highly recommend you check out my XHTML and CSS videos and then my JavaScript tutorials. Once you do this, you're going to be ready to move on to HTML5. If you kind of skip over these, and this is the very first video you're watching on web development, I'm going to be moving kind of fast and you might get kind of lost. So I just want to tell you guys that first. Now, if you're like, okay, what the heck is all this crap? I'll give you guys a 5-second introduction. XHTML is basically the core basic elements of a website. It's basically like your foundation. CSS is how you make everything look pretty, add some colors, arrange the pictures nicely, and JavaScript provides functionality, interactivity. It lets the user interact and basically makes your web page a whole lot smarter. So, with the basics, with making it look pretty, and by making it smarter, you guys might think, okay, so that's basically everything I need to make an awesome website. Well, HTML5 is kind of like an XHTML, CSS, and JavaScript burrito. It ties all of it together, makes it a whole lot better, and it's just going to take your web development to the next level. So that's what you guys have to look forward to. It's going to be awesome and amazing. So, as we can clearly see from just browsing the web, that the website isn't like it was in like the 1990s. It's no longer just static text and information like reading a book online, but it's becoming more interactive and media based. So that's what we're going to be learning to do with HTML5, kind of like I said, taking our websites and web pages to the next level. So before we begin, before we start typing a whole bunch of code, I want to mention a few things. We need a couple tools in order to write HTML5. The first tool we need is a text editor. Now you already have a text editor probably already on your computer called Notepad. However, this is a really dull and boring and simple one. It's not the best. So what I would recommend doing is downloading this one right here. This is called Notepad++. If you go ahead and type that in Google, you can find it and download it for free. But this is a text editor that I would recommend. It's the one I always use, and you guys are going to thank me so much for telling you guys about this. Did I mention it's free? Oh yeah, it's free. So aside from a basic text editor, you also need Google Chrome. Now that's kind of a lie because you can test your HTML5 websites in any web browser, but Google Chrome is the web browser that's always up to date with the latest HTML5 stuff. So if you're using Internet Explorer or Firefox, then I would recommend switching over to Google Chrome because like I said, it's always up to date, and aside from that, I'm going to be testing all my sites in Google Chrome, so if you want to follow along and do exactly like I'm doing, then it's probably best you get the same tools that I'm using. So anyways, those are the two things you need, actually three things. You need a text editor, you need a web browser, hopefully Google Chrome, and you need some ambition. But hopefully you guys got that already. So anyways, once you are all set up and ready to go, you're ready to move on to my next tutorial where we are going to be creating the basic shell of a HTML5 website. So it's going to be awesome and amazing. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget. What is going on, guys? Welcome to your second HTML5 tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to set up a very simple HTML5 website. Now what we set up in this tutorial you can basically use as a template for all your HTML5 websites from here on out. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing we need to do is we need to open a blank file. Now you can either click this button right here, or you can go to File New. Either way, we need a new file. Now from then, we need to save this as an HTML document. It's very important. So go to File, Save As, and I am actually saving all my crap in, I made a folder, HTML5 YouTube. So go ahead, and it doesn't matter what the name is. I'm just going to name mine Bucky, and you can either hit .html or you can find it in this list of about 6,000 things. Hypertext Markup Language File. So Bucky.html, very important you have the HTML, and save. Now once we have the core file saved, we can go ahead and start typing some crap into here. Now the very first thing we need is a doc type, and before I even get started I want to mention this. I'm going to be telling you guys all the tags that we need, and if you don't even know what tags are, again I want to stress this one more time. Make sure you watch my XHTML tutorials, and once you do, you're going to understand what the heck I'm talking about. But let me go ahead and show you guys who already know a little bit about XHTML what we need in an HTML5 website. So again, like I said, we need the doc type. So doc type HTML. And that's basically all we need aside from the regular HTML tags. So how much easier is that than your XHTML huge long string of text that you need to copy from the W3 places? It's nice, clean, and simple. And don't forget your exclamation point or whatever it's called. That wasn't a typo, you actually do need that. Now after that, you need your HTML tags. Now these HTML tags, in fact a lot of these tags I'm going to be typing in this tutorial, are the exact same tags that you needed in XHTML. So nothing new here, just go ahead and write your HTML tags, and anything in between here is basically our website. So your HTML tags, they actually need to be a little bit different. What you need to do is you need to add an attribute called lang, and you need to set this equal to en. This means basically what language are you using, and the language attribute needs to be set to English because I'm speaking English, that's why. So again, that's what we need to add for HTML tags. Now after that, we need, of course, the head and the body. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Go ahead. So put your header right there, and put my the very first thing I'm going to be adding, and you need to add this to, is a meta tag to define the character set. So do that by adding meta char set and set this equal to UTF minus 8 or hyphen 8 dash 8, whatever heck you want to call it. And this is a self-enclosed tag, so you only need one. And I guess I might as well talk to you guys about meta before everyone gets mad at me. The character set is pretty much how your browser interprets characters. It's really techie stuff we don't need to worry about. You just need to copy it. But anyways, character encoding is something, like I said, we don't need to worry about. But meta tags, on the other hand, you might be seeing these a lot. These are other information that your website may need. For example, keywords, a description about your website. It's not required, but it's nice to have some of these meta tags. It's kind of like the credits at the end of the movie. You don't really need them, but it's kind of nice to have them. So that's the only meta tag that is absolutely necessary. The rest, like your keywords and description, aren't required, so I'm just going to be sticking with the basics for this tutorial. Now after this, let's go ahead and add a title. Now the title is a thing that appears at the tab or the top title bar, if you guys kind of guessed that. And I'm just going to name the title of this website Bucky's Website. And again, whenever we view this in a web browser, this is what's going to appear on the tab on Google Chrome. So now I think, okay, we actually have one more thing that we need to add, I forgot. And that is a link to our style sheet. And then we're just going to be adding this, previewing it, and that's the end of this tutorial. So a link is basically a reference to an outside file. So if you're saying, okay, first of all, I might as well talk you guys through these attributes. Rel stands for relative, and it pretty much means how is this link related to the website. So this is a style sheet. So we pretty much say, okay, the file we're about to tell you is going to be a style sheet for this web page. So now it needs to know, okay, so what file is it? And for that, we use an attribute called href, and we set it equal to main.css. Now if you're saying, okay, what the heck is this file? Actually, this file is a CSS file that we didn't create yet, but we're going to be creating it in the upcoming tutorials. Now we're saying, okay, Bucky, I watched your CSS tutorials. I know that you can just throw all of your CSS on the website right here. Well, yes, you can, but what I like to do is I like to use my CSS in a separate file because it keeps it a lot cleaner and easier to manage. It's always good to have your CSS in any design or appearance files on an outside web file because we want to keep this thing as simple as possible because we have enough stuff to pack in here. So that's why I'm doing that. So anyways, in order to preview your website, go ahead and save it and hit run. See you then. What is going on, guys? Welcome to your third HTML5 tutorial, and in this lesson I'm going to be talking to you guys about the different parts of the body. Now, way back when, people used to lay out websites using something called tables. Now, this allowed you to kind of arrange stuff in columns and have all your logos on the top, and it kind of gave you a decent layout, but it wasn't great. And then, a little bit later on, people found out about divs. Now, divs gave you more control over your layout, but with tables and divs, neither layout was great, but it kind of got the job done. However, whenever you use HTML5, not only can you organize your layout a whole lot better, but you can also identify the different parts of the body. So if you use the table, pretty much everything was in a cell, and your browser didn't really know which part was supposed to be your header, your footer, your navigation. But with HTML5, this is all changed. So if we go ahead and take a look at any website, if you ever used the internet before, you probably noticed that web pages are divided up kind of similar to one another. So let me go ahead and here's a neat little trick aside from HTML5. I don't know if you guys knew this. If you're using Google Chrome web pages, you have your main content, which is pretty much the meat of your web page. It's all the important information, and aside from that, you have your footer. Now the footer is at the bottom here, and it has all the copyright business crap. And the only other piece, I guess, that is kind of noticeable is the sidebars. You have one over here with like extra news and one over here. But basically every single website, I don't want to say every website because there are some weird ones out there, but a lot of the websites are kind of laid out in the same way. And the developers of HTML5 kind of noticed this and they said, okay, we might want to break this up a little bit smarter than we have before. So what they did is they made tags for each of these pieces. Now your browser can know which each part of your website is for. So let's go ahead and work in the body in this tutorial. And here's a nice little trick too. I'm telling you guys all sorts of tricks. If you want to collapse something, for example, I don't need this head because I'm not working in it in this tutorial. Just go ahead and hit this little minus sign and it'll collapse it. So there you go. It's still there. It doesn't delete it. It just collapses it. So there you go. There's some more tips. So anyways, in your body, the first thing we want is the header. Now remember, the header, don't get it confused with the head, what we just collapsed. The header is basically the part of your website that has your logo and pretty much the title of your website. So in order to do this, let me go ahead and indent this actually. We just go ahead and type header and have an ending tag like that, and save this, run, launching Google Chrome. We can see that we now have a title in this. Whenever we're reading this in a browser, our browser is going to know that whatever is in between your header tags, that is the header of your website. So aside from that, we also let's see, let me think of the order I want to do this. I guess I'll tell you guys about the navigation next. Now the navigation, if we look, it's all of these links right here. It's the main navigation for your website. And the tag that they figured was the best for that is NAV, short for navigation. So since we don't have all those images and rollovers, we can just make an unordered list, UL, UL, and throw a couple of list items in there. And I'll make a couple fake links. I actually won't make any links. I'll just put some text in there. Copy this bad boy. I don't know why I do that. Whenever I'm copying something, I right click it and hit copy. And whenever I'm pasting it, I hit the shortcut Control V. Pretty weird, but I do it anyways. Okay, home and tutorials, and I'll make a fake link to my podcast. So anyways, the key that I want to take away from this tutorial, or excuse me, this little piece of information is whenever you have your main navigation in HTML5, put it in between these nav tags, right like that. Now, I guess the last tag I'm going to talk to you guys about is, I don't know how much time I'm going to have left, but the main content is pretty much all this meaty stuff. It's pretty much the main information, the most important part of your website. That goes in between a tag called section. Now, it doesn't always go in between this tag, but for the sake of this tutorial, to keep things simple, we're going to be adding all the important stuff in between section. Now, we're actually going to be spending a lot of time in there, so I guess we'll do that in the next tutorial. I'm going to try to cover all these basic tags first. Now, the sidebar I was talking about is basically all your, it's not the incredibly most important information, but it might be, a little news story or some more navigation or maybe a funny picture of a cat or something. Not really the meat of your website, but it's useful information. What we do is we put it in a sidebar and we name that aside. And you can actually have a couple of these, but we'll just stick with one for now. And let me just put like a little header. So header 4, and what am I gonna say? I'll make this like a news story. So I'll say news, and then I'll put like Bucky has a new dog. I really don't have a new dog, but if I did, I would definitely put it on my website. So I think it suits it well. And the last part before I forget is the footer. Now the footer of your website, if you look, pretty much all websites have a footer. It's this little information at the bottom where you have like your copyright information and your company name, and maybe if you have a really big website, there are the terms of services, what you can't do, what's illegal and stuff. So we use that and we put it in the tag footer. How appropriately named? Footer. Now everything in here, again, like I said, is like your company information, copyright. So I'll make a fake copyright. Copyright New Boston. And what year is it? 2011. So with that, you have your very basic structure of a very simple website. You have your header, which is your title and logos, your main navigation bar that usually appears at the top, your main content, your sidebar, and your footer. So now these are custom HTML5 tags, and now our browser knows that anything in the footer is exactly footer information, and it's not just in a random table or a random div tag. It actually is aware of the content now. So if we go ahead and save this and run launching Chrome, you can see that, okay, what's going on here? Here's my header at the top, and my navigation looks like it's in the right place, but like this, isn't that supposed to be on the side? I think you told me that was the side. Well, actually, aside, these tags, they only describe the information or the content. They only are saying, okay, browser, this is side information, or in other words, not as important information as the main stuff. It doesn't position it. We're going to be working with positioning and styling later on. But anyways, what I want to point out is these tags right here, they're pretty much used to only describe the information in it, and we're going to be using CSS to style and lay out everything nice and pretty later on, but that's in a couple tutorials. For now, just get your basic tags set, and I'm going to be showing you all the cool stuff later on. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Alright guys, now that we have the shell or the container for our body, we can go ahead and add some meat to it, some actual content. Now remember I said that in the main section of our body, we didn't add anything in the last tutorial, but we were going to in this tutorial. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to be starting with something called an article. Now whenever you think of article, you probably think, okay, so this means that you're going to be adding something that's going to look like a newspaper article or a magazine article with a bunch of text. Well, an article doesn't have to be like a magazine article. It's just a way that you can group similar information together. So it's not like an article like you think of it. Just think of it as like similar information. So inside an article, here's a cool thing. Each article has its own layout. See how our entire body has a header and a footer? Well, these articles also can have headers and footers. So let's go ahead and add a header first. So let's go ahead and do that now. So in the header, we can go ahead and add heading 1, just like before. And what am I gonna title this article? I got something really creative in mind. Title of article. And no explanation point. I'm not that excited just yet. And also you can have additional, for example, H2 tag. And here we could do something like write a subtitle. So let me think of subtitle for article, explanation point on that piece. However, I want to mention this. Whenever you have more than one headers, for example, we have two right here, inside your header, you need to group them together inside something called an H group. Now you do this by just surrounding them in H group tags. And this is just so HTML5 doesn't get confused. It's going to be like, okay, is this the title or is this the title? And we need to say, no, 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 HTML5. This is actually part of a big group. Both of these things are important. And actually, you see how we have everything lined up right here? I actually want this indented. So with Notepad++, you can just go ahead and select it and hit tab and it'll indent. It doesn't delete it or anything. So now our header is all set up. It has a title and a subtitle, and we group that in something called a header group so HTML5 wouldn't get confused. Now we also have this one paragraph, and that is the main content of our article. Now in the footer, we typically have things like, you can have, if you're writing a blog, you might put a link to comment on it, or if you're just writing an article, you can just write something like this. Oops. Like write who it's written by. Written by Bucky Roberts, or you might want to put the date or something, but that's pretty much it. So mainly you have an article, or at least that's one thing I'm going to be telling you that you can put in the main section. An article is just grouped similar information. Now in this article, it could have its own layout, including its own header, its own footer, and of course you need some actual content to go in there. Now in the header, you can have a title and a subtitle, and when you have more than one, you have to group it in something called an H group. And aside from that, you can also have more than one article in this section. So let's just go ahead and copy this, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste it down here, and let me just add some 2 so I can differentiate this. And alright, this is the second best article ever. So if we go ahead and save this, run, and launching Chrome right now, we can see that we do have 2 articles. Subtitle for, or excuse me, this right here is article 1, and this right here is article 2. So again, like I said, nothing is laid out yet, and I want to mention this. It may seem that all these tags are kind of useless for now, but later on I'm going to be showing you guys the awesome things you can do with all these so-called useless tags, and you guys are going to be amazed. So a bunch of people just didn't sit in a room and come up with a bunch of useless names for tags. There's actually some awesome, amazing stuff that you can do with it, and that's where the power of HTML5 comes into play. But for now, I'm just going to kind of tease you guys and just follow along for now. I promise you guys, you will be amazed. And also, I'm going to be copying all this code and posting it on my forum. So if you kind of miss something, or maybe you're getting an error or something, or your document doesn't look exactly like mine, just go ahead and look at my code on my forum, and you can just go ahead and actually copy the whole thing and paste it into your document if you want. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. What is going on, guys? It's Bucky, and welcome to your 5th tutorial in HTML5. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about some styling using CSS, and also the new version of CSS called CSS3. However, I want to mention this first. As you notice, I ripped all the stuff out of the body, and that's because I know we have a bunch of more tags to go over, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be teaching you guys about styling, and then I'm going to be going over the new tags, and I'm going to show you guys how you can use them in conjunction to do some pretty brilliant things. But first, I need to talk to you guys about styling, so we got that down pat. So instead of attribute selectors. So basically, what you can do, bacon is in the beginning or the middle, it doesn't get affected. It only gets affected when I want to show you guys some of the powerful tools that we have when working with CSS3. So that's a little taste of that. In the next tutorial, we're going to be going over more CSS3, more styling, and then I'm going to show you guys how to tie everything together. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.